Good morning. I'm gonna make a quick video about adjustments on your machine. This is basically a threaded rod or a screw. This is your stitch length. This is your nipple pressure. This right here is your foot pressure. Okay, the way these kinds of things work is there a screw or a threaded rod, and the threads go up and down. The length of the threads is your adjustment area. So first, let's talk about stitch length. This lever here is like a locking washer. So when it's in this position, this screw can't rotate. And when it's loose back here, this screw can rotate. So right now, if you look under my machine under here, you will see that that screw actually sticks out of the machine, and this part right here will touch it as it goes up and down. So this screw is all the way down. It limits the motion of this arm here. So this arm can only go up and down a little bit. That's giving you a short stitch. Stitch length is when your needle goes up and down, it's how many times the needle goes up and down for the fabric traveling. So if you unlock it, I have just a little screwdriver, and I put it in here, and I screw this out all the way. Okay, the screw is coming out, so you see the threads are getting longer, and all you have to do is look under here until you no longer see the screw sticking out of the machine. So I'm actually there right now. I'm gonna go back down and see. I passed it actually. Okay, so right now I see it starting to stick back out down here. So I go back and I turn it up a little more until I don't see it sticking out down here. And once it's not sticking out down here, excuse me, I'm on the longest stitch, and then I just tighten it. You don't have to worry about taking this out. The screw is going down through the machine, so you basically have like this distance, this screw, I don't know what is exactly called a bolt, but this distance between here and here is the thickness of the machine. The screw's not going to fall out. It's actually in the machine this deep from here to here, screwed in, but you just look to the point where under here it's no longer sticking out, and then that means I have my longest stitch length. So I'm gonna make sure it's not sticking out, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it back. Now I'm on my longest stitch length. So essentially these threads here, up and down, this is the adjustment area for my stitch length. It's also the same policy or premise for tightening or loosening your tension, and also for the nipple pressure and the foot pressure. I'll cover that next. So now I'm on the longest stitch length. Typically that's going to be something like 9 stitches per inch, and you could probably go up to probably like 25 stitches per inch. Every machine is a little different, and I do have a different video which covers in-depth like stitch length adjustment and how it works. But for now, when you just got your machine, this is your basic adjustment. There's other parts that are moving that you can modify, move, change a little bit. How they're fitted together to change this, but this is basically the first level to change your stitch length. And your machine, generally speaking, like I'm saying, it should be going somewhere between, like at the max, like 8 stitches per inch, up to maybe like 25 to 30 stitches per inch. Most machines are gonna run somewhere between 10 to like 25 stitches per inch. These machines are not going to give you a really, really long stitch. They're just not designed that way. So I'll leave that there for now. Okay, so this is nipple pressure. Okay, there's another bolt here. It happens to be a hollow bolt. There's a spring inside. Move my oil guard here. Okay, there's a spring inside this tube that goes down, and that spring controls your nipple pressure. So the way you adjust or change the pressure, there's a lock washer here that keeps this bolt from rotating when you don't want it to, and then you rotate this bolt. So this lock washer locks down onto this metal part, keeps this from spinning. So the way you adjust it is you need a crescent wrench, okay? Do not use pliers because pliers will put tool marks on your parts. So you need a crescent wrench that will not mark your parts. And you need to get in here and you need to loosen this nut. And now my my stitch length thing is in the way because I raised it up, but maybe I can just get it loose enough to loosen this bolt. There. Okay. So, all right, I've loosened the bolt. I raise it up. Now I can take this entire assembly, and it may be tight. If it's tight, put some oil on your threads. But I'm going to take this entire assembly and I'm going to screw it up. Okay, there's a spring that's compressed inside this tube. When you compress a spring, you get more pressure. When you decompress the spring, you get less pressure. So I'm going to start loosening this here. And like I said, this makes your nipple go up and down. So your nipple goes down and it's pressing down as your needle comes back up out of the fabric. So if you don't have enough pressure on your nipple, as the needle tries to come back up, it'll pull the fabric up with it. So the nipple like covers the needle area and it makes sure that the fabric stays down while the needle comes back up. So you just need enough pressure for that. So I'm still unscrewing this, and you can see this bolt. It's the same for Singers as it is Mausers. Okay, so the bolt came out. So this is my threads. That's my adjustment area, going from like less pressure to more pressure. So this is a spring in here. This is it. This is your nipple spring. You want to keep this lubricated, okay? And there's one more part in here, which is just this little like plunger thing with a stop on it, okay? So you can see mine is like really oily. You want it to be oily because you want the nipple to be free moving. So that is your spring. So nothing bad will happen if you unscrew this all the way. And in fact, it's a good idea to check and clean that once in a while. When your fabric stops feeding, you have a problem and your fabric's not feeding, there's a possibility that this spring could break. So that's a whole nother thing. But for now, if you have issues, you're welcome to look at this, check it out. Grab a paper towel so I can wipe my hands off here. So that's all there is to that. And then this nut is free moving. Just keep everything lubricated. So I'm going to put this back now. So I have to push the spring down. Sorry if you can see that. Push the spring down, and then this goes over top of that. But you just have to push it all down and do this by hand. Get your bolt started, you know, carefully so you don't cross thread it. I'm gonna get it. Okay, this is a little bit of pressure, so I'm trying not to block the camera view. Sorry. Okay, so I'm screwing it in until it gets started, and I'm pushing down with my left hand. Okay, I got it started. So then I'm gonna just screw it back down to, you know, wherever I want it to be. So I'm at less, this is less pressure now because the screw is not compressing the spring as much. This lock washer, you just screw down and you make it tight, and then this bolt won't come loose. Sometimes when you're sewing, if this comes loose, this thing will just pop out while you're sewing, and then it'll get oil all over your fabric, and that's not good. So you just want to make sure that this lock washer is tight. Okay, let's move to the foot pressure. Okay, so hopefully I've explained that. So the foot pressure is back here, if you can see that. It also has a lock washer, which does not have, mine, they're all a little different sometimes. This one is a nut. This one is a knurled ring that you can turn with your fingers. I don't like to use pliers on my parts because you'll get tool marks. So I will use a crescent wrench because that won't leave a mark if I have to, which you would need to do here, but you'll know when your stuff pops out, it's not tight enough. Haha. Okay, so this is the same thing. There's a thread here and there's a spring in here. This spring is a little different. This one is a little larger diameter, and all you do is adjust it up and down. You don't want your foot like crashing into your needle plate. You just want your foot to have enough grip and pressure so that it comes down and it moves the fabric, and then it goes up, and then it comes down and it moves the fabric. So you don't need a lot of pressure. You know, this isn't sewing through a lot of thick layers. It's not like an industrial sewing machine where you're doing, you know, harness leather or something. You just need enough pressure so that the foot can move your fabric. So it's the same thing. Loosen this, you rotate this up or down to change the pressure, and that's it. Everyone's machine is different. Okay, if your spring on the inside is weak, you're going to need to screw these screws down more. If your spring on the inside is strong, you can have these screws higher up. If you're brave, you can pull the spring out and you can like actually grab both ends and you can stretch it out a little bit, and then you'll have more pressure because the spring will be longer. Okay, you guys need to think outside of the box. Don't be afraid to adjust these, and then the main thing is that you watch and you see how it affects your stitching. Okay, one thing that's very important is there's holes on the top here. You want to be sure you put oil inside the holes because that lubricates the spring so the spring can go up and down. Okay, so hopefully this helps demystify this area up here. Okay, thanks for watching.